My name's Timothy Nimmo. I'm from Loveland, Colorado, and I've only been doing this a couple of years professionally, showing my own work and producing my own work, exhibiting it. The themes that I'm working on are my interpretations of ancient creation myths. The origin of my inspiration is on my t-shirt. At the time this was found, it was the oldest tattoo known to man. It was found in a mummy of the Scythian people, buried in the permafrost in southern Russia, northern Iran, and it had this peculiar twist to the hindquarters. And I saw this many years ago. It was very captivating, and I couldn't figure out why it was twisted like that. Tried to redraw it the right way many times, and it never had the impact. And a few years ago, I met a man who was both a Lakota shaman and a trained archaeologist, and he said, first off, this twisting of the hindquarters indicated that this was a spirit animal and not an animal of flesh and blood. And then he said, with his cultural bias as a Lakota, of a people similar to the Scythians, horsemen, warriors, nomads, that he conjectured this was a creation myth, which would be showing the moment when the Great Spirit was creating the first stag, and it was being born in the sky, moving from the spirit world and transitioning into flesh and blood. And so that's what really kicked it off for me. This is a piece called Sacred Stag Warrior, and I'm trying to depict that transition from a spirit form into a physical form, and in somewhat of a style which would be like the interpretation of an ancient person who was conveying this myth to others and creating a god or an idol which would show this creation story to his tribesmen, or perhaps something that he witnessed in a dream state. And I have a very contemporary style in which I'm conveying this ancient inspiration, and so my patina is also kind of, to bring it conceptually full circle, are kind of reminiscent of ancient cave art or rock art, and I hope that subliminally gives the impression that this is some ancient pagan magic spirit image which is coming to life off the cave wall. And the bases are also an important part of it. This is symbolizing the spiritual above, which is coming to life and manifesting itself and coming down to ground. This is representative of the earth and the works of man, stone crudely formed here. So that's my work.
When I was in the hospital and I had my legs, my knee joints replaced, the doctor became more fascinated with my artwork because I was healing so quickly, and he was more interested in what I was doing as an artist. And he was saying, did you ever think about using a prosthetic, joint? And I said, like, what are you talking about? And he said, well, I have these prosthetic hips and stuff. He said, would one fit into a piece of artwork? And I said, well, give me one and we'll see. He said, if it well, it'll fit in. So he gave me this piece that they had taken out of this person and worn out, and it welded beautifully, so I put it into it. Since the name comes from history, and because, it is an actual thing. Yeah.
Okay, this piece is called Ghost at the River. It was inspired just outside of east of Denver, Colorado, sitting in an old dry wash. I started seeing the sediment, the layers of sediment in the side of the dry wash, and thinking about the people and the animals that used to live along here. And I started thinking about how the sediment used to be water, and so now you can see the reflection of this buffalo, kind of like a petrified reflection, and streaming out behind it in the dust is ghosts of the rest of the herd. And on the other side, the figure of the buffalo is even more ghostly. The people who used to depend on these animals just fading away to non-existence. And this one is about rising tides.
Rising tides, okay.
You can see the remains of a building in here. It's being flooded.
Oh, sort of like in the ice cap
foot underwater than they were 15 years ago. And these stories have it there. Here on this side is, again, more representation.
Now, I've seen you, all these seem to be on these pivotal bases. You do two sides to all the pieces.
Yeah.
Very
Most of the things I was doing, have been doing for the last 35 years, are all meant to be seen on land.
Well, now that was one of the things that I understood was different from a painter's perspective to a sculptor's perspective.
Right.
The sculptor's always trying to make sure it works from every possible angle, where the painter's only worried about directing. Okay, very cool. Well, I appreciate your time.
Sure. How you doing? I'm Ken Newman. This is my sculpture, Forever Ready. It's based off of my 35-year love affair with the lab, and it was created in the absence of having a lab. And I had just lost a male at 14 years old, and it was about a year after that loss that I created this sculpture and wanted to reflect on all the labs that I had, not just one. So I came up with a sculpture that meant and possessed all the elements that endeared the lab to my heart. And this is what you see: intensity, a dedication, a friend, the companion, everything. But even with that, it's perched right on the edge. And sometimes that's our relationship with our pets. They push the boundaries, and it's a give and take. So, and this is it's about how the lab goes all day long, loves to swim. The pelt or the wonderful V's that are formed in a dog's pelt has jumped back on the pedestal and hasn't even bothered to shake. So the water is just running through his fur, and it clumps up, and to me it's just beautiful. Incredibly intense eyes looking at the object to retrieve. Only 2 feet really hold the dog on the pedestal. This one is lifted up and the other is slipped off. It's almost as if you don't give him the command to retrieve, it's going to fall right down into the water. And being I've had the labs for 35 years, my sons actually have labs, and to represent how they get into your blood within this pedestal that the lab sits on, it was fabricated with square nails to suggest that this pedestal was made in the turn of the century when we were still hammering our square nails. And this family has gone back generationally with the lab onto the same pedestal for however many generations, either duck hunting or it just represents that tradition.
The starting point of integration here in the United States. Are you familiar with the Central High School story?